Is Alexander Volkanovski too old to remain the featherweight champion? That seems to be the main storyline going into UFC 298. Volkanovski is going to face Ilia Topuria, a very tough matchup who has put on some very good performances, most notably in his most recent win over the hard-hitting Josh Emmett. Alexander Volkanovski is like 36 now. He's old. He was just KO'd by Islam Makhachev 4 months ago. The main question going into this fight is not only about Volkanovski's age, it's also going to be about how he recovered. Remember, Volkanovski got caught by Islam Makhachev, like I said, 4 months ago with that high kick that put him, like, literally, he was out. He was talking about how he was depressed before that and how, he's needed a fight. That kind of worries me. That worries me a lot. And that doesn't worry me for this fight necessarily. That worries me if he starts to lose. That sounds like the talk of a man who can't give up the sport because the highs are so high and the lows are going to be low. He might end up the way of BJ Penn. He might end up the way of Anderson Silva with 6, 7, 8 losses in a row. I can't watch Volkanovski do that. But Alexander Volkanovski might be one of the best fighters we've ever seen compete, at least at his skill level. The question is now, at his age, is he actually slowing down? That's the main question. Is Alexander Volkanovski slowing down to a point to where these young guns like Ilia Topuria can come in, keep up with him, and get a win over him? Can he be dethroned? Or is it going to take a monumental fighter like Islam Makhachev to beat Alexander the Great? Now, the age, it's weird because he's got, 5, 6 title defenses. I don't see Alexander Volkanovski as the same echelon as like George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Jose Aldo. I don't see him as those long reigning guys. And it sucks because he might have a better all-around skill than all 3 of those guys. Maybe not with GSP. He's not a John Jones. He's not going to be around racking up 10, 11, 12, 13 title defenses. Kamaru Usman did it. And he only had, 6, 7, 8, something like that? Let's see, who did he get? Usman beat Woodley. Then he beat Covington, Masvidal, Burns. Yeah, he has 5. Wow. So, yeah, this fight might be the last good performance we see from Alexander Volkanovski. Is he slowing down? Is he recovered from the Islam Makhachev fight? That's my 2 biggest questions. Now, if we're going to be honest here, Volkanovski's been great for so long. And if he loses to somebody like Ilia Topuria, great. Topuria is a fantastic fighter with great hands. He's going to up the game, especially if he's champion. But let's not forget just who Alexander Volkanovski is. And that's who that's what I'm going to be talking about. So first things first, let's talk about the switch, because that's what Alexander Volkanovski does best, right? So I'm going to pull up this diagram right here. Alexander Volkanovski against Yair Rodriguez. We got 2 of them I think we're going to look at from Yair today. Yeah. So this right here is the first thing. A lot of times we'll talk about the step back and how Volkanovski will step back from orthodox to southpaw or vice versa to land a lead hook. Oftentimes it's from orthodox so he can land his power hand as the lead hand. But what we'll see here, instead of stepping backwards, what Volkanovski does is we see in frame 1, he is in orthodox and he will start out. That's going to be his opposite stance from Yair. So Yair sees the open side is going to be his power hand. So what does Volkanovski do? When I say the open side, I mean, so you got Yair's left side, right? Because Yair's in southpaw right here. So what Volkanovski does is he skips, like he literally hops into southpaw. Now his close hand is closer to the far side. They're in a bladed stance now. So his lead hand, which is now his right, is closer to the chin, the unguarded side of Yair Rodriguez. Now this works because the left hand is normally forward. This is the range finder. This is the jabbing hand if Volkanovski is in orthodox. When he switches to southpaw, he does it quick. Now this is to get into position quickly. When he does this skip very quickly, it puts his right hand forward, right? And that doesn't give Yair Rodriguez enough time to kind of adjust to this. So, as we see in frame 3, the right hook lands. And it's that kind of a trickery stuff that I've come to love about Alexander Volkanovski. He tried to do it against Islam, I think. It's kind of a newer look that he does, but he's been doing this for a couple fights now. I have to go back and rewatch. He might have done it in the Max fights too, because Max fights out of southpaw as well. And Topuria is not a southpaw, but this quick switch like this into southpaw could give Topuria some problems, because he hasn't really fought against a tough, hard-nose hitting southpaw just yet. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see if Alexander Volkanovski switches to southpaw for larger portions of this fight. That would take away Topuria's lead hook as he knows it. It would take away his jab, especially because the lead hands are touching each other now, and Volkanovski can easily parry that down. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of southpaw out of Alexander Volkanovski. He's shown that he's okay to fight in southpaw. He prefers to switch from orthodox to southpaw, but I really do think that that's going to be the biggest X factor here. Now, our next frames that we're going to be looking at is that, of course, the beautiful finish. Another big part of Volkanovski's game plan as of late has been the low kicks. We didn't see it as much in the Makhachev fights because Islam Makhachev is a wrestler, and if he gets a hold of your leg, you're done for. So there's two types of kicks. There's an inside kick and an outside kick, and we'll be looking at specifically the inside kick. The outside kick is going to land, but with Yair Rodriguez, so let's see, here he is in orthodox, as is Volkanovski. So obviously they're both switch hitters, so there's a really dynamic fight. And this was actually one of the more fun ones to break down. But anyways, so the inside kick is when Volkanovski kicks the inside of his leg, the left side of, or the right side technically, of his left leg. So it's on the inside of your leg, between your legs. He kicks right there, and this lands on the calf, right? So in frame 2, we see that Rodriguez is going to call for the correct counter, which is a cross. Okay, so he'll do a right cross. But what does Volkanovski do? Instead of coming back down into orthodox, what he'll do is come into southpaw. Right, so you see his lead foot, instead of coming down in front of him, it goes to the back. And then in frame 3, we see he's in southpaw. That puts him just out of range of that cross. Yair follows up, because he's such a great striker, with a body kick. Now, I don't expect to see a lot of body kicks coming from Ilia Topuria in this fight, especially with how much he's loved his hands lately. But he has a good body kick. So this is something that Volkanovski have to watch out for. But on the body kick, that puts him on one leg. And on that step back, we see that right hook, which is now the lead hook, because he stepped back into southpaw, lands clean, and this is the strike that knocked Yair Rodriguez down. So this step back we saw a lot in the Islam Makhachev fight, and it's one that, you know, he kind of abused, and it got him into trouble against Islam Makhachev. So if Topuria is smart, he can do some stuff like double jab to get in there on this as Volkanovski's backing up, but he'd have to keep that right hand up, and that's something that Topuria does. He drops his right hand when he starts to throw. So he'll have to keep his right hand up. You know, obviously we'll be talking about the shoulder roll with Topuria later, but it's a good look, man. Like, this is Volkanovski's bread and butter next to the calf kick, something that he did a lot more early on. Like, don't forget, the reason he beat Max Holloway all 3 times, or the first 2 times, was because of that calf kick. So yeah, and then another variation we see, Volkanovski could very well do this out of orthodox, kind of, or out of southpaw, I guess, because he's in orthodox in this next frame that we're going to be discussing here with Islam Makhachev. Now, this is one of his bigger moments of success in Makhachev's fight. This is what, round 1? Yeah, so we are in round 1. Makhachev is a southpaw. Volkanovski is the orthodox fighter. So what Volkanovski does is he's reaching there and he starts out in orthodox. He's grabbing the lead hand and he tries to pull the lead hand down. As he's doing that, he's trying to control the jab because Makhachev has a sneaky jab. It's really good. It's really sneaky. You just don't expect it from a Dagestani. As he comes forward, he brings his rear foot forward to close a lot of distance with a little bit of movement. Now, I say a little bit of movement. When you're stepping in with the jab, you've got to kind of shuffle your foot behind you. Stepping through all the way with your rear foot covers up a lot of distance and lets a shorter guy like Volkanovski get into range. As that rear foot comes through, he throws a right hand around, and that gets Makhachev to move his hands, and then he follows up with the left cross. So he's not looking for just the lead hook coming forward, he's looking for the left cross. This is a very important one. This is probably the more important than the step back and the quick switch, if you ask me. Topuria, he does tend to back out on a straight line when he gets complacent. So he'll jab and back out on a straight line. He's very good with the V-step and pivoting out, but he's only good with that when he's pushing forward. So if if Topuria can get to where he can back up, or if Volkanovski can get to where he can back up Ilia Topuria, he can really find some shots to step through right here, especially with this left cross that we see into southpaw. Again, Topuria hadn't fought a really zesty southpaw. So yeah. So Ilia Topuria, he's a very good fighter. Let's swap gears here for a second here. Ilia Topuria is a fantastic fighter. He has incredible hands that have gotten better. We've seen this from the Yusuf Zalal, which is a fairly okay fight, but then he comes out, all hell breaks loose against Damon Jackson. He almost gets knocked out against Jai Herbert. That's one of those dropping his right hands. Herbert found the right high kick. Or was it? Yeah, right high kick. I think Jai Herbert stepped up. But anyways, he has a really good jab, and that's kind of the basis of what Ilia Topuria does. He throws a good jab, and then he combination works, head movement, pivots. He's almost the complete package. For an MMA fighter, he's the complete package when it comes to boxing. It's just beautiful. I love it. So let's go ahead and look at some of the techniques of Ilia Topuria. First things first, we talked about the shoulder roll. So here's a quick reference graphic right here. Obviously, Mayweather's the king at the shoulder roll. What you do with the shoulder roll, the shoulder deflects the right hand, and you tuck your chin behind it. He did that against Josh Emmett, and it worked great because Emmett is only a right hand. The right hand can parry the jab, and it'll block the left. So you'll see oftentimes he'll push down. Topuria does this as well. He'll pat down strikes coming his way from the left. And then lastly, you've got the left hand protecting the body. So he'll roll with everything. And he did this a lot against Josh Emmett. He combined the roll with the pivot. If you haven't read Jack Slack's article on Ilia Topuria and the V-step, I highly recommend it. He goes into way more detail than I can possibly do. He's absolutely fantastic. One of the best out there. So go read that. And a lot of the stuff I'm saying is stuff that he said. I picked up on some of this independently as well, but I wouldn't lie. I would be lying if I said some of this I didn't pick up from Slacky. But hey, such is. Yeah, Topuria, he moves his head. He got the shoulder roll. He got the whole 9 yards. He's very good when it comes to this because this is just what he does. This is how he's developed his game. He watches a lot of boxing. I said it looks like he watches a lot of Canelo, and he throws a lot of the same type of combinations Canelo throws. The guy is incredible. So against Bryce Mitchell, it was an absolute beatdown. He made Bryce Mitchell kind of go crazy after that. That's where kind of Bryce Mitchell started going off the edge. So in our next graphic here, we'll see Topuria moving in with his bobbing and weaving head. All right, so when he leans to his lead side, which is his left, he's going to load up that lead hook to the body. He really likes that lead hook to the body. And then when he leans to the other side, he loads up his right. Okay, so off his dip to the right, now keep in mind, this is where that lead hook or stepping back from Volkanovski could come into play. So Topuria's going to have to be careful here. But here against Bryce Mitchell, Ilia Topuria boom, throws the uppercut, kind of lands under the arm, and that loads up his lead left hook. Frame 4, he throws the left hook, and again, the hip torsion loads up the right, and he comes over the right, and that's the one that finally drops Bryce Mitchell. His combination punching is like this all the time. Then we go into his footwork. He enters and he exits in an angle. He pivots out and sets up strikes while not being there for the power strikes of an opponent. The only problem is he's really heavy on this lead leg. And when you're fighting a guy like Volkanovski who ate people alive with that, that's a big concern. He's checked kicks in the past, but he doesn't always consistently check kicks. That's a little tough to say. And that can be a real big danger to him in this fight. So that's something he's going to want to keep in mind here. Probably a little too late to mention that now if he's listening for some reason or another, but he's going to have been working on this in camp the whole time. Last frame we're going to listen to here is from the Josh Emmett fight. So we start out with him and Emmett. They are mirrored off, and Topuria sets a jab, and he pivots out, which, he gets his left hand up. So Josh Emmett in frame 2, he's throwing the right hand. He knows the left hook is coming because Emmett has an underrated left hook, and if you miss it, you're going to get dinged. And then he knows with his right hand up, after that left, the right hand's coming again. So what Emmett is doing, he's throwing that right hand, and Topuria, look at that, the shoulder roll like we discussed earlier. He gets behind it, and that right hand of Josh Emmett really bounces off the shoulder, causes no damage whatsoever. So Mayweather was really good at the pull counter right, and that's exactly what we can see in frame 4. Topuria, after rolling with that shot from frame 3, frame 4, he fires that right in. And Josh Emmett is turning in. He's still turning into Topuria at this point. This is how fast this is, right? So the frame starts at 309, and we end at 308. Think about this. Topuria jabs, pivots, shoulder rolls, pull counter, and then this frame 5, a 1, and then a 2 over the top of Emmett's hook. Absolutely incredible. In the span of we'll say a second and a half. That's wild. So some of Topuria's weaknesses right here, he often throws himself out of position. Like we saw against Bryce Mitchell where he's throwing these hooks and he's falling to a knee. I believe that happened in the Emmett fight too. Against Volkanovski, that's not going to fly. He's going to have to be in tip-top shape. He's going to have to be perfect footwork. He's not going to want to fall. Otherwise, if Volkanovski gets on your back, he's going to push you to the fence and grind you out. He lowers his right hand. That led to the high kick against Jai Herbert, and Volkanovski will step back and he will eat that alive. And then, as I mentioned, the low kick. So this fight's going to be super fun. It's going to be a very technical fight. It's going to be one of those fights that you will be like, wow, this is fun. Or it could end in just pure disaster. And Volkanovski is, knocked out. That would hurt my heart, but it's totally possible. So, yeah, I'm not going to make a prediction on this fight. I don't think it's going to be there's too many, X factors that I can't control. Like the whole Volkanovski fighting 4 months ago and getting knocked out. And also, he's getting older, too. And at some point, he's going to fall off a cliff. We've seen it with everybody. At some point, they all fall off a cliff. Oh, it's going to be a good fight. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, guys. This is kind of a preview thing. I did a lot of film study on these two guys, so I have a lot to say. As my notebook gets filled with past fights, we'll start to do more and more of these. But until then, we'll do them when I can. I'm out. Catch you guys on the next time. Later.